Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. Today we're going to continue our exploration of the city of Zolotoheim, way up in the Skelos Mountains. So Zolotoheim is situated, originally it was in a cave system in the Skelos Mountains that the dwarves excavated to the point that it has become this massive internal cavern in the uh, in the mountainside, and it is bisected by an underground river that forms a lake called Lake Braskus. And Lake Braskus is dark, deep, dark, extremely frigid waters. Um, uh, they say that at its central point that the waters are a little over a mile deep. So yeah, it goes way down there, and it kind of collects in this bowl and drains out the other side. Now, the to the south of the lake, it drains out. This drainage continues on. The river continues on through the Skelos Mountains, continues to be fed internally by some glacial runoff and things of that nature. Eventually, this would become it bubbles out, really inconspicuous bubbling on the eastern side of the Skelos Mountains, fed by many other streams, and it flows down to what becomes eventually the Great River, that flows north to south through the Braunhaven region. And so Lake Braskus is filled with a great many cave fish. There are numerous dwarven boats, and there are docks that the dwarves have a fishing industry where they catch these fish, and that is a large staple of food in the city. Some of these boats are also on the river. They are pleasure barges, and some of these pleasure barges, they are built in a catamaran style, and these are huge, and they have for the people that for the merchants that are wealthy and staying at one of the inns in Zolotoheim, they will have a package where you can spend 2 nights out on this pleasure barge, and essentially it's just a floating party. Um, and a lot of times these pleasure barges, they can be at odds with some of the fishermen because these pleasure barges, being so large, cause the fish to be scared away. Cave fish, being what they are, cave fish are fairly, um, you know, solitary, and seeing this huge catamaran plowing through the water can scare them off. And in addition to that, the noise sometimes from some of these outsiders living or staying on this barge for a couple of nights, doing nothing but drinking and hooting and hollering, can be disconcerting. Now, the ceiling of this cavern is way up. It's probably 200 feet up, and it is dotted with, I guess that would be stalactites. Stalagmites are on the bottom, so stalactites on the top. There's a forest of stalactites that are peppered with veins of electrum and quartz and platinum. Several, you can see gems in the ceiling, and the dwarves have just left those as an aesthetically pleasing, um, something to look at. There is also phosphorescent lichen and mosses that grow on the ceiling, shedding some light, as well as natural vents to the outside that some sunlight does stream through. These vents are also, they don't seal them up because of the smoke from the forges and cooking fires and whatnot. They have a natural way to escape the cavern. Now, Zolotoheim is the main gates. One might think first time that they go there, if you're traveling through the Skelos Mountains, you're going to see the main gates of Zolotoheim, and you think that stepping through those gates, you're going to be stepping into the city, and this isn't actually necessarily true. Um, there is a path that once you step through those gates, and those gates are guarded by the dwarves of the clans, and that is They question, but that's not where they charge the tax for outsiders. They generally charge that at one of the gates, and so you will make your passage down the this trail. The trail or trail, it's a road, and this road is similar um, to the Eastern Tradeway in the Skellis Mountains. It is a polished white marble road, and they keep it exquisitely clean. And this it travels down, and the most likely entrance that most people are going to come in to use Zolotoheim proper is Southgate. And so there is this 20-foot or 20-foot tall double doors that are made of a dark iron and granite, and or two granite towers, and then dark iron doors that are inlaid with electrum filigree, denoting the different clans of the dwarves that founded Zolotoheim. And this is where the or the city guards and city watch will charge your entrance fee. And the entrance fee isn't terribly expensive. It's a couple of electrum to enter, and this is the tax to enter the city. Now, as I stated last time, the current immigration policy of Zolotoheim is that um, if you are not dwarven or if you're not of dwarven or gnomish ancestry, the king has and council has decreed that you cannot purchase property and live long term or set up permanent residence in Zolotoheim. If you're a trader, a human trader, and a merchant, or an elf, or what have you, yes, you are welcome in Zolotoheim. You have to pay the tax coming in the door because you're not paying the 15% annual tax that residents are paying, and you can stay as long as you like, but you're not allowed to own property or rent an apartment or anything like that. You're going to be staying in an inn, and the idea is, eventually you're going to leave. There are people that have stayed; they've rented a room at the inn long term. They might stay there for as much as a year, doing whatever it is that they are doing. But no outsiders other than dwarves or gnomes is allowed to own property in Zolotoheim. But you're most likely to come into Zolotoheim from the south gate. The other secondary most likely location would be the north gate, and Northgate it is a little peculiar. Northgate is actually the road to uh, through Stagina to the capital city of Olafsfeller. And it kind of goes through the tunnels, through the mountain, underground for several miles before coming out at the bottom into the valley down below. And there is a somewhat of a muddy dirt trail that leads eventually to Olafsfeller. Now, this valley that this trail to Olafsfeller travels through can be found or can be seen openly from Westgate, and Westgate is, there's no there's no purpose to Westgate continuing to exist. Sometime in the past, there was an earthquake, and part of the mountain just fell away. And so now, Westgate, when you step out of Westgate, you come out of a cave and are overlooking this huge valley that is miles below. And on a clear day, you can see, pretty much everything. Oftentimes in the Skellis Mountains, because, it is, a couple miles down there, you're going to be up in cloud layer. There's going to be heavy fog, rain or snow, what have you. You're not going to have much visibility. But in the wintertime, this valley that the trail goes through to Olafsfeller that you're overlooking, in the winter, fall, winter, and early spring, it's going to be covered in snow and sheets of ice. It is quite imposing and treacherous. But in the later spring and summer months, maybe even early fall, it basically all of that kind of melts off, and the area becomes a swampy, marshy mess that's still cold, but it is a swampy marsh. And basically, the only people that want to travel through that are people who enjoy being miserable. But there are permanent settlements. There are small villages and towns along that road on the way to Olafsveller. And indeed, those people do, Stygianians do live in that swampy, marshy mess. There are a couple of locations there. But I don't know why normal people would want to live there. You would have to ask the Stygianians. They seem to be a very hardy lot. The last gate is the East Gate, and East Gate really is a entrance to the mines of Zolotoheim. And you can go down there. This is the mines, of course, are the heart and lifeblood of the capital city, and so there is. Every morning there are crews going to Eastgate to go down into the mines to do the day's work. Not necessarily organized to the city, or even organized to the individual clans. There are individual dwarves that work as prospectors that are going to make their way down into the mines, trying to find a new vein or a new grouping of gems or rare crystals, things of that nature. Now, the dwarves have the one part about Eastgate is that the dwarves have mined so far into the mountain that there is numerous underworld, mythic underworld access points throughout the mines, and those trails generally are how the dwarves and the races of the underworld travel back and forth for underworld trade between Zolotoheim and those cities down below, such as Felsencleft, and there are Sverfneblin settlements and even Mycelian settlements, and unfortunately Drow settlements. But the Drow are kind of insular in that they kind of had their own little civil war, and the Drow Empire has kind of fallen away. And we'll explore the underworld at some point in the future, but that is beyond what we're discussing today. So, if you're coming in through Southgate, which is the most likely scenario, the first area that you're going to travel through is the Coitianta quarter. This is the common quarter. This is where the bulk of your, I guess you could say, mid middle class people live. Lower end and middle class people. This is the bulk of the population of people that live in Zolotoheim. Many of the miners, the day-to-day miners that haven't found that vein or deposit of gems to strike it absolutely rich. This is where they're going to live. A lot of time these people are going to work as miners for organized companies, for the clans, or perhaps even for the city as a whole, or maybe even a prospecting company owned by one of the prospectors that did find a vein and a batch of gems and made it rich, or perhaps they work as stevedores for for traders that are working out of the merchant quarter. And so this is your middle class area. It is peppered with tenements, tenement homes, or tenement apartments, middle class homes. There are a lot of middle class and lower end shops, and restaurants, small taverns and inns, things of that nature, that are peppered throughout the Coitianta quarter. There are small markets that seem to spring up, night markets, or just small Saturday markets or farmer markets. And to the to the north and the south, there are the Coitianta quarter is surrounded by farmsteads, and so the farmsteads in Zolotoheim generally grow crops of cave varieties of wheat, barley, hops, and of course mushrooms and different patches of lichen. And this is the bulk of what these farms are harvesting. Cave wheat is a very coarse grass-like wheat that the dwarves bake into, of course, a majority of it turns into bread. I wouldn't say majority of it. I would say probably half of it turns into bread, and then the other half ends up getting turned into whiskey. That is the other thing that the dwarves absolutely love is whiskey. And they also, of course, brew different ales, usually a dark beer. Um, they use the barley and hops for that. And mushrooms and lichen are, of course, used in just everyday foodstuffs. Now, oftentimes, for livestock, because dwarves are not vegetarians, they are certainly not elves. In addition to the fish that is brought out of Lake Braskus, they will also have herds of livestock such as goats and chickens, and they do raise moose, and moose are domesticated by the dwarves and are generally used as traveling beasts of burden. They will oftentimes, if you see a dwarf trade caravan leaving Zolotoheim and traveling westward on the Eastern Tradeway, they will be traveling on mooseback, and they will have moose that are pulling wagons and carts full of, whatever it is that they want. This allows the dwarves to travel very fast, especially through the Skellis Mountains. Moose, they usually swap the moose out before getting to into the deserts of Erebachia when they're on the Eastern Tradeway. They will trade them out usually for camels, and then those moose will get sold to traders that are making their way back to the mountains. Mostly because the moose just aren't going to be able to travel across the desert. Now, the other big thing that they raise for food is cave aurochs. And so an auroch is well, in the real world, aurochs were the predecessor to our modern cattle that we have today. Pretty much all cows can be traced back, domesticated cattle can be traced back to the auroch. And so aurochs are a natural form of cattle, and they are bred here in Zolotoheim as a source of meat, and a large source of meat. And so every farm raises aurochs. And of course, they also have chickens and boars and lizards. They eat a lot of lizards too. They do raise small, anywhere from a foot long to 4 feet long lizards that are raised and butchered for food. So you'll see these farms that are peppered throughout, but the Coitianta corridor, of course, is peppered or is surrounded by these farms. And then the road, as it comes through Southgate, it kind of continues to head to the northeast, and it splits into three. Now, there's only two bridges that cross the underground river that bisects Zolotoheim. The south road actually goes to docks, where many of the people that live in the Coitianta Quarter are going to be fishermen, and so this is kind of the dock road that goes down to where these people go to work every day, unless they are, working for one of the fisheries or whatnot out of the out of the Grand Market. So these two roads will cross, and you've got the northern road, which this is Embassy Bridge, and Embassy Bridge pretty much dumps you out right at the Elven Embassy, and we'll discuss that here in the future as well. This bridge, the central bridge, is the Market Bridge, and Market Bridge is the most common bridge to be crossed, and is usually there day and night. There is traffic that goes back and forth across this bridge, and the reason for that is that it leads to the Grand Market. And so the Grand Market is the busiest location next to the forges in all of the city of Zolotoheim. It is Um, Busy day and night, 24 hours a day. It sees people moving about. There are shops that are open 24 hours a day. Most of these are going to be, I mean, many of these are just going to be tent stalls and kiosks. A lot of those will shut down for 8 to 10 hours so that the owners can get rest. But a lot of the permanent structures that are built are going to be running day and night. And there you can find everything. There's jewelers, ore merchants, livestock wardens, pretty much any kind of vendor that you can imagine is going to be available in the grand market. Especially jewelers and gem merchants. The market is peppered with them. So if you have a large amount of coin that you want to transfer into a lighter weight, easier to carry amount of gems, you would find somebody, you would find a jeweler in the grand market, and they will usually they will sell you gems of a market value. Now, the reverse of that, if you for whatever reason have a gem that you want to turn into coins, because not every merchant or shop or anybody is going to accept just a gem and take your word for its value. They want hard currency. They want coins. And so if you want to flip that around, the downside of that is when you sell a gem, they will transfer the amount of money that the gem is worth, but usually they're going to keep 10 to 20% of the value off the top. So you are going to be paying a fee for that money transfer. But if you have a shit ton of coins and you want to buy gems, they'll sell them to you at market value with, because they're already making their money back on that, 100%. One of the biggest popular places in the Grand Market is the Lazy Gentlewoman Inn. And you can find the Lazy Gentlewoman. The inn is down here on the shores of the river and Lake Braskus. It has a beautiful view of the lake and is especially spectacular at night because you can see the phosphorescent fish and shellfish and plants in the lake bottom. It kind of makes the lake glow a bit, and so it's a beautiful view at night. It's hard to tell day from night because you're in an underground cavern, so it kind of outsiders will start to notice that it's all melding in, one to another. But it does actually get a little bit darker at night, simply because you don't have as much light streaming through the ceiling. This, because of that lack of light, the phosphorescent moss and whatnot starts to dim after a time, and then in the morning, the sunlight comes back through and it recharges a lot of this. And so the Lazy Gentlewoman can be found because it's the biggest inn, in the Grand Market, but it has a sign over the door that depicts an overweight female dwarf, and she appears to be sleeping on a gigantic donut. And then that just over the top of it says that it is the Lazy Gentlewoman. So this is the most popular inn. It is huge. I mean, calling it an inn, it would probably be closer to a Grand Lodge hotel type of thing. They do a brisk business. The tap room is open 24 hours a day. A lot of times, merchants and trade caravans will do business, private business in a booth. There are many rooms available, some for long-term stay. They do have a rather large common room, so if you can't really afford to spend a private room, or even if your party can't afford a suite, or even a shared room, they've got a large area or a large room where it does have a fireplace to keep it fairly warm, and you can just lay out your bedroll and sleep on the floor, and that is the cheapest route to go. So the pretty much everybody will tell you if you're staying in Zolotoheim, the Lazy Gentlewoman is the place to stay. So catch us next time. We will be discussing directly across to the northwest of the Grand Market is the forges and the Temple of Montes. and of course the Elven Embassy. Catch us next time on the Lore of Braunhaven. Thank you for watching.